I've seen posts up that say things like, well, you should have had an emergency fund. Well, you should have had this in place. Oh, you should have been doing this. I think that's a horrible way of looking at it. And actually, it's not about beating yourself up when things go wrong.
Hey guys, Dr. Viv here, and welcome again on Reset with Dr. Viv. Today I have got Nikki Ramskill, Dr. Nikki Ramskill in the house. Woo! Nikki is a UK-based GP turned money coach with a wealth of experience when it comes to making money and the mistakes that we sometimes make around money. And she's on a mission to help others improve their health and on to improve their wealth. And today we're going to be talking about money and making money and dealing with some of the debt situations that many people have found themselves in, even right now through the pandemic. But before we get into that, guys, if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, hello, what's going on? All links are in the description. Subscribe now. If you're not already following me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all links are in the description. I look forward to connecting with you as well. Right. Hi, Dr. Nikki. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Viv.
I love that. I love that. It's often nice to be able to say that.
Do you know what? For ages, though, I was really embarrassed to use the doctor bit of my name. How weird is that? I became a doctor, and it was like, I don't want to use it because people think I'm pretentious. It was really weird for ages. I really struggled with that.
Yeah, and it's so nice to hear that it's not just me that went through that as well. Because you're a medical doctor, I'm a PhD. I have to clarify to people that, hello, I'm a doctor of book. Don't come to me for medication or prescription, But it took a while for me to add the doctor to my name. And I realized, again, it was a mindset thing. Because what we found is that a lot of people, who even just had honorary degrees, and much respect to them, were quick to put it, but it always felt like those of us who had worked for it seemed to feel like we didn't deserve it, and we're not putting and it took me a while, and I had friends say, no, Vivian, change it. I had, I remember one of my bank friends said, we are going to change your bank card. I'm at the doctor. They were doing it, not even me. And over time, I've had to get to that point of realizing you worked for it. Why are you shy of putting it? So to hear you as a medical doctor as well say that you shied away from that, it's really, really interesting that many of us who have done the work for it almost forget that we deserve to have it before our names.
Yeah, absolutely, completely and 100% deserve it. So yeah, but it is weird, isn't it, how your mindset changes over time. And the more you work on your own self-esteem and that side of things, that's when it's okay to use it. But it takes the work. You've got to do the work first, haven't you, to sort of step into that persona that you don't feel ready for yet.
Yeah.
So,
but it's off. And sometimes we've got to, I guess, it's even forgetting just the doctor thing. It's just our sense of self and sense of worth, and knowing that you deserve the good things. We don't always have to suffer or feel like we have worked 20 hours or killed ourselves or something before we think that we deserve some things in life. It's so important. But yeah. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It's fine. I was going to say it's very similar to money as well, but we're going to get onto that. So
yeah. No worries. So Nikki, you are a GP, a UK GP, a UK-based GP turned money coach. That is not. I don't hear that often. So tell me more about that. How did that happen?
that there's a lot of doctors in America that are blogging and podcasting about money. There's some that have written books. Some have even sent me copies of their books, so I've had a chance to read them. I've been on some of their podcast episodes before. So it's a thing in America. But they're writing for other doctors generally. They're not writing for your average person that isn't a doctor. Whereas for me, when I started doing work on my own money problems, that's when I opened my eyes to the problems that my patients had and my colleagues had. And if you listen for it and you ask the right questions, you find it. So a lot of health problems come from this stress around money. So my stuff is all around helping women particularly, because my background is in women's health. So it was only natural that I would also help women in their wealth. And for me, it's about helping women to be able to utilize what they've got to build wealth for themselves, to then teach their kids, be able to spend money in the way they want to spend it, invest it in the way they want to invest it, and potentially then change the world with, some business idea, or, it doesn't matter how big or how small the idea is, but you need money to do it. So my thing is about helping to change the world with women and their money so they can do it.
Wow. And this all started with you recognizing your own money issues as a doctor.
Massively. I mean, when I got to the age of 30, I had one of those like early midlife crises or late quarter life crisis, however you want to call it. And that's when I realized that actually I needed to sort my money out. I was in loads of debt. That wasn't just my medical training. I mean, I was in £50,000 worth of debt outside of medical school. And that was just through training. It's even worse now. It's like more than double now. But at the time, that was a huge amount of money, plus all of my bad spending habits throughout medical school. I was overspending all the time. I was based in London, so London's expensive anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just rents, going out, spending time with your friends, all of these things doesn't work on a student salary. And the salary is usually just a loan that you get, or maybe a part-time job or something like that. So I got myself into a lot of debt because I hadn't been taught how to manage credit. I was just given credit at the age of 18 with my student account. Like, here you go, here's a credit card. Well, what do I need that for? Well, just in case you need to buy things. Oh, okay. So for me, it was like, oh, free money. But it's not free money. It's money you've got to pay back. And that's where it started. And then, you start with one credit card, and then you get a letter in the post that says, oh, you can have this much credit now if you want to. So it goes up a little bit more and you spend a little bit more. And if you're not paying it off, you quickly get yourself into problems. So for me, that's where it all started. Plus the whole FOMO thing, like fear of missing out, really wanting to go out and do things, do the traveling. Like, of course, I was becoming a doctor, so of course that I have to do stuff like that. When doctor salaries actually aren't that good, like just to say to people, like, when you first start training as a doctor, you don't get paid through medical school, but then when you get to the other side, your first job is like 22, 23, 24,000 pounds, something like that. It's not that much, and it's certainly not that much enough to go on holiday every single year, like on all different fancy things and buy different fancy things. And yeah, it was a mindset thing. So I thought that because I was a doctor, I should be doing these things because it means that I'm successful. So I had to do a lot of unpicking around that. And that's when I hit 30, that's when I thought, no, enough's enough. I've just got to change it now.
Wow. And it's so interesting you say that because, for example, in the UK, we're both in the UK, right? And I'm not sure. I think it's the same in America. I'm not sure. In many parts of the world, they don't necessarily have a credit community or credit money culture. But here in the UK, they do. Everyone wants to be on a credit card, and you think, oh, I've got a credit card, so I've got money, but it's not really your money. It's not really your money. And, you find people going to debt because I've got a credit card, I can go spend, but it's not really your money, so it's really, really interesting to hear what you just said there. What was the one thing you felt like you were spending on that you eventually realized that you did not really need?
Oh, I would say it was probably clothes and shoes and things like that.
Girl thing.
It's the girl thing. It's the I want to look the part. I want to be the part. I want to be like everybody else.
Mm.
And there was one. I mean, for me, I do a lot of emotional, or did do a lot of emotional spending. And when I passed my obstetrics and gynecology exams, which were really, really difficult exams, and I was so pleased with myself that I'd done it. And I went and bought myself a pair of Christian Louboutin shoes. You know, the ones with the red sole underneath it, underneath the bottom. The really gorgeous, sexy ones. But they, oh my God. Like, so I'm still thinking about them now going, oh my God, they're amazing. I bought those on credit without having the plan to pay them off, to save the money for them. And they're £700 for one pair.
Wow.
So I kind of tricked myself into believing that I was investing in them because I'd picked a black pair. That meant they go with everything, you know, I'll wear them all the time. And you kind of like tell yourself you're going to use them and you deserve it. And it's like, oh yeah, of course I deserve it. I've just done this big exam. Of course, you know, I deserve to do this. I'm a doctor. I'm successful. So yeah, I'd say it's the clothes and shoes for me, but also traveling. Like, I can't resist going on holiday. Now I can, but at the time I wanted to do everything, go everywhere, and said yes to everything. So yeah, they were my things.
Wow. So it was, just as you said, it was a sense of entitlement and, let's say, a feeling or a sign of success for you to have those things.
Yes.
When indeed you were just doing that off the credit card and not thinking. And it's really interesting because for a lot of young people, I'm hoping that young people to get to listen to this as well, when mapping out what is useful or what isn't. And you know, I'll be honest with you, I don't know about you, Nikki, but this lockdown, I can count how many clothes I have worn and repeated, and not surprisingly surprise myself by realizing that I didn't need to buy a lot of the clothes that I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, even with how do I call it now? Food. You know how that sort of thing where you go into the shop? I'm one of those people, you go into the shop and I'm going to buy one bottle of water, and I come up with a trolley load, spending maybe 10 times more than I had planned to spend. You know, At this lockdown, I surprised myself. I think we said we're going to shop once a month. I surprised myself. We went to the shops once, and, you know, even when things finished in the house, we found ourselves asking ourselves, what else is there that we haven't used? We don't need to go out. What else? So somehow, rather than thinking we had thinking, oh, there's so much more, we can just go keep buying. We're now thinking, what is there that we haven't, haven't used? You know, so it's really, really interesting. But okay. So you found out, you realized the money situation that you were in. What was the point that you realized that, and what was the first thing that you did to deal with it?
So the first thing the moment I realized was when I was away traveling. So I'd actually taken some time out of my obstetrics and gynecology training because I was burnt out. I couldn't cope with the job anymore. If you've read, there's a book by a guy called Adam K, is an ex-obstetrics and gynecology doctor, the same as me, and that book explains perfectly why I decided to leave that profession. So when I decided to leave it, I took time out. I literally took time well out of medicine. I went traveling. That gave me time to think. And that's when I realized how bad things had got, because I'd gone traveling, again, using savings, but also using credit. And it frightened me. There was a point where I thought, am I going to be able to come home and still pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to come home and still get my bills sorted, get my car back on the roads? You know, all these things were worrying me, which kind of tarnished the traveling a little bit, but I'd never say I regret it, because I loved it. It was an amazing thing to do. But when I was away, the first book I read was the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad book. So if you've never read it before, if no one's ever read it before, definitely give it a read. I mean, he's been a bit, some of the comments he makes in his personal life on things like Twitter and stuff like that, just ignore it. read the book for the essence,
For the value.
for the thing that it's trying to. Yeah, not because of him. Like he says some stupid things. Like he loves Donald Trump and stuff like that, and so I ignore that bit, and I just read. Yeah, and that was the first time that I realised that investing was important. Getting out of debt was another way of building your net worth, building your bottom line, so to speak. So you're not negative anymore. You're getting to a point where you're starting to support yourself with money, as opposed to constantly having to work all the time to pay off the things that you're buying. And it switched my way of thinking from putting everything on credit to, hang on a second, what am I doing with this? I should be having emergency fund savings. I should have money set aside for holidays so I don't have to keep using credit cards. And it just got me to think in a different way. And then from there, I just kind of started reading loads of personal development books on money, people's blogs, podcasts, things like that. And at that point, that's when I thought, okay, now I need to get out of debt. And I learned something called the debt snowball method. And that was from a woman called Ann Wilson. And she's got a book as well called The Wealth Chef. And I read this book, and it was just like, wow, my eyes were open after that. And I learned how to get out of debt through using this snowball method.
Right.
I'm not completely out of debt yet. I'm nearly there. But I've paid off so much money. I mean, when I first started, my net worth was like minus 60,000 or something like that. My net worth is now 250,000. So it's massively changed in 5 years. And that's just from paying off debt, understanding my numbers, starting to invest, all those things. And it was from these books.
Wow.
Just changing my thinking.
Wow. 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 We all need money, right? We all need a sense, we all want to feel like a sense of security and all that. But I guess on that, when would you say enough is enough, or when should one feel like they have enough money? And the reason why I'm asking that is obviously health is wealth as well. And a lot of times we're chasing money, chasing the good things of life. Where does one stop with it?
It's a really good question, because I teach people something called the sacred money archetypes, and there are 8 of them, and there are the 3 that will have the biggest influence on your life. For some people, their archetype is a pusher, so it's constantly pushing you to do more. You haven't got enough, do more, do more. There are others that they're not so bothered. So everyone's going to be different on this, but I think culturally we've been taught this idea that you should have a house, a car, some stuff for your kids, especially if you're in, the doctor profession, or any of the kind of other professionals. They seem to think that you have to send your children to private school, and that's because their friends are all doing it, and not really thinking, no, is that the right thing for my child? What am I gaining from that? So I think if we're copying other people, it might seem like we need to have a lot of money. Yes, if you want to have like a sports car and your private jet and a personal chef and all that stuff, fine. You're going to have to be a multimillionaire. Let's face that. For most people, you don't need much money. And actually, what you want is that comfort in retirement. You want to be able to go on holidays. You want to be able to look after your grandkids. You want to have that ease when you're retired. So for me, it's about, what do you truly want, like deep down? Is it the fast cars and the first class holidays and all that stuff? Or actually, is it just like a countryside cottage in the middle of nowhere with maybe, some goats and a chicken or something? It's like it might be something like that, something really simple that really lights you up. So I think to know when it's enough, I think you have to know yourself, and you have to really dig deep into who you are.
So I guess that it's that whole thing around comparison, and not measuring yourself against what other people think, but against your own values and your own measures.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really, really,
absolutely.
really.
And actually, it's so helpful if you don't have one of these sort of ideal lifestyles of wanting to be first class flying around the world and stuff, because that's putting more pressure on yourself to get that money. And when you don't achieve it, you can see yourself as a failure. But actually, if you have more simple ideas about what it is that you want, I mean, we don't need all of that stuff, do we? We need a dry place to live. We need, probably the internet, making sure our family are okay, making sure we've got enough food, maybe the odd holiday once a year or something. That really is what we all need. But it's when we start thinking we need more to feel happy, that's when we're pushing all the time. So yeah.
What makes you happy?
Yeah. Exactly. What makes you
happy? Yeah. What makes you happy may be different from what makes me happy or what makes them happy. But ultimately,
yeah,
what is making you happy? Is it what you really want or what someone else is telling you should be happy by? Pretty much what you're saying.
That's it. That's it. Pretty much sums it up. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Wow. That's really, I'm going to come back on that, especially in the times that we are now. So with you, you've had a traumatic breakup, you've lost things, you've had burnout, you've had to take time off work. That's sometimes not easy to even get to that point and say, you know what? I know I've got this job and it sounds great. It looks great to the world, but I just need to take a break. I need to step away from it all. How did you bring yourself to that point? And what did you learn from it?
Yeah,
all the things that you've gone through.
It was something that had been building for a while. And I think I'd noticed it from maybe the second year that I was in my obstetrics training. And everyone around me just said, oh, it's just because you're a second year. It's fine. You'll be all right when you get to third year. It'll be fine. You'll become more senior. You get to make more decisions. So I held on. Okay, I'll wait till I get to my third year. But the problem just then got worse. And I was ignoring it, but I could feel this is not right for you. This is not right for you. And I kept fantasizing about, I could leave medicine. I could do something else. I could go traveling. I could do that. I was thinking about leaving, escaping all the time. And then when I got to my fourth year, I started having panic attacks. I started having these episodes on labor ward where I couldn't swallow. So it would all get, I literally would be sitting there trying to fight back the tears. When you get a lump in your throat when you're trying to not cry, that's how I would feel almost all the time on labor ward. When I actually took the courage to talk to my trainers about it, so when I finally admitted there was a problem, that's when everything changed. So that's when they offered me time out, and that gave me the space to then think and breathe and decide what it is I wanted to do. And that's when I realized that I was going in this direction that didn't align with who I was. It didn't fit what I wanted. I wanted this lifestyle of being able to pick and choose how I worked, when I worked, what I did. And I was going into hospital medicine where you don't get to choose any of that. You don't get told, oh, you can have that day off if you want to. No, you have to work that day. You have no choice. So that's when I decided to go into general practice, because then you've got more control. And that's what lights me up. It's the freedom to be able to choose when I work, what I do. Like being able to talk to you right now is not something I would have been able to do if I was still in hospital. So it's things like that. And I know that this is what lights me up because it makes me happy. So, yeah.
So more or less like understanding your values and understanding yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. Because, so there are a lot of people, and I'm guessing a lot of people have been in this situation where they're doing things that they don't like. People are getting burnt out. They're in jobs that they hate. If you had the opportunity with a room full of them, what will you say to those people?
Well, I mean, I'm very aware of the fact that I'm in a job that can translate really easily into different countries, different specialties, different parts of it's easier for me. But I still had to make that decision. you know, anyone can do it. Lots of people I know one woman who she was 50 when she got into medical school. She'd been trying to get into medical school for about 25 years, on and off trying, and then eventually got there at 50. Like, she could have given up after like attempt 1 or 2, but she kept going until she got in. So it's a different way of thinking. It's like, okay, if you're fed up with something, fine, but actually there's no point in whinging about it or moaning about it. Do something about it. Like, start learning in your own time. Like, what do you find interesting? What do you want to do? Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to open up your own business? Do you want to do something? Like, start to learn, find out, read books. You don't have to suddenly give it all up. You can make baby steps towards it, really tiny baby steps. But that sometimes can be enough to make you get on okay with your job, knowing that you've got something else coming. And really ask yourself, like, is it worth my life to be miserable all the time? No, it's not. We only get one shot at this.
We only get one shot at life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So through your experiences, like, you know, like we said, like the trauma, the, you know, and burnout, and being able to get to this point, what is the one thing you've learned about yourself or about life?
Is to be true to myself. So my highest value is freedom. It always has been, but I just ignored it for a long time. So I know that what I do needs to align with that value, because otherwise I will just be miserable. And sadly, people in my family have died young. So my grandparents on my dad's side died when they were in their early 60s. My dad sadly passed away at the end of last year. He was 57. And wow. The idea of not seeing the things I want to see and not doing the things that I want to do before I die, that scares me. You know, I've seen patients, like I had one patient in A&E once. He was 60-something, 63 or 64. He came in with a medical problem and he had to have time out. And his wife said, oh, he hasn't had time out for over 50 years. And I couldn't help it. But what I said was, that's nothing to be proud of. And you think, 50 years of not traveling, seeing the world, doing anything. I know he's of a different generation, but that frightens me. The idea of not doing things before you die, no, I can't live like that. So for me, highest value, definitely freedom. That's what I learned about myself. And it's about aligning my life to fit with that value.
Wow. So beautifully said, Nikki. So beautifully said. And, you know, the thing is, we're in a pandemic right now, right? And, you know, a lot of people have found themselves in situations they did not plan to be in. Many people have lost their jobs. Some people have found themselves in debts that they had many of them did not even have debts before this time. I was listening of a dentist, for example, talk about having no debts and before the pandemic, and all of a sudden just have to take out, loans to be able to keep going. Besides that, there are people who have struggled to even, to survive through this period and have money issues and all the rest. What is the one advice you will give these people now at this point as we all begin to navigate and bounce back?
Yeah, I think I've seen posts up that say things like, well, you should have had an emergency fund. Well, you should have had this in place. Oh, you should have been doing this. I think that's a horrible way of looking at it. And actually, it's not about beating yourself up when things go wrong, because yes, the pandemic has affected people in various different ways. Some people are really badly affected by it, and others, it's like a light scratch. It's fine. You just cope with the inconvenience. So what I've been encouraging my community to do is use this time as reflection. So it's time, it's not about beating yourself up and saying, I should have had this in place. No, it's about, okay, I could have had that in place, but I didn't. Why didn't I have that in place? Now I can go and do it. Like, for example, my will was about 6 years out of date at the start of the pandemic. And I couldn't believe that I'd left it that long. And I thought I had it done and it was sorted. And then when I looked, it was like, oh wow, no, this has to change. It had my old details on it. My dad was still down as an executor, all these things. So I got the will sorted. I didn't beat myself up about it and say, oh my God, I'm ridiculous. I'm teaching people about money and look how bad my will is. No, I went, okay, it needs to be fixed. Fine. I will find someone to help me. And I found somebody to help me and got it done. And it was sorted. And then, you know, I now have it ready to go if, touch wood, the worst happened. So it's about looking at what your situation is like. Like, do you need insurances? Do you need a savings account with an emergency fund in it? You know, what do you need now, so that if something was to happen again, maybe a second wave, maybe something happens in your family, maybe you have to take time out of work because you get sick or whatever, how can you protect yourself? And it's now starting to ask those questions. How can you protect yourself? How can you future-proof your money so that you don't have to be subjected to what's going on around you? Yeah. So it's like reflection time. What can you do to change and actually put the things in place and change them?
Wow. So rather than beat yourself, take the lessons learned and apply them going forward.
Yes,
wow.
Exactly.
Wow. That's yeah, wow. That's so powerful. And you know, it's so interesting you said that, because I'm originally African, originally Nigerian, and a will is not something we think about that, or we talk about even for such an age. You know, when a lot of us think about wills for when you are much, much older. So it's interesting that you were even thinking about that, even now. Even
people not from the Nigerian culture, they don't like thinking about wills. You know, I've got plenty of friends that do not have a will in place yet. And I think that is because we don't like talking about our own death. We don't like talking about these things because it feels like you're bringing it on. It's like tempting fate kind of thing. But actually, I think I've got the privilege of seeing people in situations in, say, hospital settings or GP, where they've had these horrible diagnoses given to them really young, 20s, 30s. And you think, actually, yeah, you do need a will, whatever age you are, because we don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea. And we don't want to think that it's all going to end tomorrow, but who have you got in your life you want to protect, right? So your partner, your children, people you want to leave money to, charities you want to help. You can do that after you die, but you have to write it down, because if you don't write it down, the government gets your money. So it's, get it in place. And then you know that when you die, you're going to leave this amazing legacy around you. You're going to help your kids, you're going to help your partner, you're going to help charities, you're going to do all these things, and you're going to leave your legacy. So that's what a will is. It's about leaving your legacy behind.
Wow. So beautifully put. And, it's food for thought, food for thought for me. And probably food for thought for so many. There's so much more that I could ask, but I'm also conscious of time. And I feel like we need to have a part 2 around this, Nikki, at some point. If people want to reach out to you, if people want to connect, where do people go?
So like you, I'm kind of pretty much on all different platforms. I guess my favorite place to hang out is my Facebook group. And you can literally just type in The Female Money Doctor to get it, or it's also known as Women Working Towards Money Freedom. So you could use either of those terms and you should be able to find it, or just find me on Facebook and send me a message and say, can I come and join your group? And I'll send you a link. It's not a problem. So that's my favorite place. So that's probably the easiest place to find me.
Nice. And we'll include the links as well in the description as well. Nikki, it has, like I said, I feel like we need to do a part 2 around this. It's been so amazing. It's been so amazing having you and talking about this, because I think, especially now with the whole pandemic, there are money matters that need to be discussed. And I think this has been really, really valuable to speak about now. Guys, I hope you found this really helpful. Remember, if you are not already subscribed to YouTube or the podcast, please do. If you're not already connected with me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, please do. All links in description. And Dr. Nikki's links as well are in description. Feel free to reach out. Guys, until next time, it's been amazing. Dr. Nikki, thank you so much. Take care, guys.
You're welcome.
Stay well, and God bless.